Good evening and welcome to the Invictus Racing League's Realistic Performance League, brought to you in partnership with GridFinder.com. I am Tim, back once again, and Malk unfortunately cannot be here with us this week, but we know that we're thinking about him and we can't wait to have him back in the comms booth with us. So today I am just flying solo, and interestingly enough, a very appropriate race for me to do so. My home Grand Prix, you could say, or one of two, technically, that take place in my home country of the United States of America, this particular one at the Circuit of the Americas down in Austin, Texas. So just waiting for these drivers to ready up. And then, of course, we've got a 10-lap sprint race and then a 28-lap feature to cap it all off. In the meantime, an update on your point standings. MDJ still hanging on strong at the top spot with 167 points to Bruce Lee Harding's 135, with Rudo in P3, 129 points belonging to him, and then a very close battle between 4th and 5th, 112 and 110 points respectively, going to Cameron Searle and Keza. That's your top 5, and switching over to the constructor standings, we have, well, pretty much of the same. MDJ and Keza in the top spot. KDJ Racing, quick finishers of Rudo and Bruce Lee Harding in 2nd. Andrea Moda with Cameron Searle and ARL in P3. And the constructor standings, well, a little bit closer than the drivers. 277 points belong to KDJ Racing, leading the standings to 264 points belonging to quick finishers of Rudo and Bruce Lee Harding. So that in itself is about a 13-point difference in the standings, and that is a far cry from what we're seeing in the driver standings, which is, just doing the math quickly off the top of my head, looking like about a 32-point difference between MDJ and Bruce Lee Harding. Now remember, the top 8 in the sprint get points, and then every driver who finishes the feature will be able to score points. So who is going to have the nice haul of points today? Who is going to be the big winners? Who's going to be the big losers? We're about to find out. Just 10 seconds until we get into the paddock. Now remember, there is going to be no formation lap. We are jumping straight into this sprint race, and then after that we will jump into our 28-lap feature. So we're going to give the drivers a few minutes just to figure out what setups that they need to have ready for this race, because this is the only time that they can really make any adjustments, except for brake bias and front wing, stuff like that. And I'll just bring your attention once again. We noticed this last week to the absolute units of a pit crew on the paddock, just, T-posing, asserting their dominance. Malk and I, we actually established that is why Formula One exists, is just because all the pit crews decided to stand out in their pit box and assert their dominance, and the FIA quickly realized that only one could be champion, and, well, that's why we race. And that's also why the loading screens need to run a little bit quicker, so that the announcer doesn't have to practice his BSing skills. Although, one thing about this track, though, while I've got you here, is you may know that NASCAR has recently added this to their schedule, and last year, Ross Chastain in the one car, he actually won his very first race at this track. Now, that really doesn't seem all that special until you take into consideration that he is a watermelon farmer by birth, and his family farm watermelon. So his trademark is he gets out of the car when he wins a race, he smashes a watermelon. Well, the big observation tower that they have at this track, I don't know how many feet in the air it is, 300 and something, it is huge. Anyway, when NASCAR visited COTA just a couple of weeks ago, they had Ross Chastain actually commemorate the anniversary of his first win with dropping a watermelon from the top of that tower. That thing fell so fast you couldn't even see it land. Of course, I only saw the video online. I'm not about to drive to Texas just to watch a watermelon get dropped from an observation tower. All the same, I thought it was a cool little thing that they did. So Scotty Design said that he saw it, and it was almost dead on the target. Yeah, yes, it was. The thing is, though, it was falling so fast the cameraman could barely keep up with it. But could you imagine standing like, just standing underneath that when it lands, that would not be pretty at all. So I think that the drivers should be finalizing their adjustments here in just a moment. Waiting to see if there's any updates that I have missed. But everything is looking okay. Scotty says, should have had them set up a basketball hoop. And if he scored, then he gets double points. Well, I'm a Ross Chastain fan, so I can agree with that right there. Just like I saw a post, actually, where someone calculated the finishes last year of the entire season and used the F1 point system. And with the F1 point system, Ross Chastain would have won the championship. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there, Scotty. So we got Spud in here, Scotty, and also Keza. And also Keza in here joining us. Not sure what's going on or why the drivers have not been able to start racing quite yet. Hopefully we will be able to get underway here shortly. Keza said that he's going for the win today, hopefully. Well, let's get through this sprint race and see where you're going to start, Keza, and then let's go from there. Okay, we are waiting on one of the drivers, so that is the delay here, is we're just waiting on one of the drivers to get in his car, and then as soon as he arrives, we will be able to start this sprint race. Remember, it's going to be a 10-lap sprint race and then a 28-lap feature. And now it is time to start our sprint race. 10 laps, then 28 laps for our feature. Now, tires, they may be a bit of an interesting call here today. If memory serves me correctly, this track pretty much eats up the tires, so very interesting to see what tire choices these drivers are going to go for. Of course, early on in the going, a 10-lap sprint race, you might see some pick the soft tires. Mediums or softs, almost definitely. And we are green for the sprint race. 3 wide for P2, almost 4 wide. They clean it up, and Joe Hamster in that McLaren P2 now. He was 2 wide briefly, but now he's chasing down Ryan Keza in P3. Nitro Gash and MDJ, your top 5 at the moment. And looking at the tire choices, every single driver going for the medium compound tire. No one feeling brave enough to go for the soft compound in the sprint race. And, you know, maybe that's just going to be okay. Ryan 0.7 of a second ahead of Joe Hamster, who has got a bit of a train of cars behind him. The Alpine of Keza trying to look underneath Joe Hamster. Could not do anything with it. And now we've got a DNF cuss. Something has happened to him. So he is going to be starting from dead last in the field when we get to the sprint race. On board with Keza using that slipstream on Joe Hamster, looking underneath him, but too far back to really be making a move. All the same, he does gain an enormous amount of ground on that McLaren as they enter the corner, and he's able to keep it as they exit through. Now it's a 3-car breakaway with Ryan, Joe Hamster, and Keza, with Nitro Gash just a little bit lagging behind. But now there goes Keza underneath Joe Hamster. Joe Hamster maybe was going to give it to him, but he actually just took a different line. And, you know, that's one thing that I really love about that section of this racetrack is that one particular corner, it seems like there are 3 different racing lines, and all 3 of them can be fast if you take it right. And you saw Joe Hamster and Keza, both of them taking 2 different racing lines, and both of them getting through there nice and clean. Lap 1 in the books. Ryan, a 138.9 to start off the race. But looks like Joe Hamster and Keza are breathing down his neck, putting a lot of pressure on him, so maybe we're going to see the fastest lap from one of these drivers here soon. Remember, in the sprint race, the top 8 finishers will score points, and in addition to that, the sprint race results set the lineup for the feature. Now, in the feature race, every driver that finishes will be able to score points, and if you're not sure of why that is, it's because that the Invictus Racing League has decided to do the realistic performance points a little bit different than the traditional F1. So as long as you are able to finish your race, you will be able to score points. If you DNF, then it doesn't matter if you're in 5th or 19th at the end of it. If you didn't finish, you don't get points. Keza still holding on strong to P3. Probably wishing that he had some DRS to try to make some moves on Joe Hamster, looking like a side-by-side battle, meanwhile, between Cameron Searle and MDJ briefly. Of course, MDJ, he is the points leader going into the race, and wow, two Williams very close together. No contact, though, and there is Cameron Searle on the inside, riding on board with MDJ. Couldn't make it work on the outside. Cameron Searle gets the position. MDJ down to 6th, and now Bruce Lee Hardy moving up to 7th, side by side with the Alpine of Ginger Tiger. Oh my goodness, wow. Almost some contact there. Actually, maybe a little bit of contact that time. But no damage. They keep it clean. We stay green. Going to Keza now, who's got the fastest lap. No Cameron Searle now with the fastest lap, a 1:37.8. Cameron in 5th, Keza in 3rd. Cameron, a tall ladder to climb if he's going to catch Keza, but Keza and Joe Hamster both struggling to get by Ryan, who has pretty much made that AlphaTauri as wide as Texas itself. Half a second ahead of Joe Hamster and Keza, respectively. Ryan is just able to have enough pace to keep these drivers from passing him, but now the DRS is active. Let's see how he's able to hang on to it. Saw Ryan try to break the slipstream. Meanwhile, out the back of the Alpine, Nitro Gash looking underneath of Keza, trying to make the move. Can't get it done, but it's side by side with Cameron and Nitro Gash. Ferrari versus Williams. And Cameron Searle running the Ferrari a little bit wide, and now the Ferrari on the inside. He's got the shorter line around the corner, but Cameron Searle with that momentum is going to be able to motor on by Nitro Gash, but will he be able to get him cleared before they get to the corner? Just barely. And now we got an issue as Joe Hamster has spun. Something's happened with Joe Hamster, so it's Ryan, Keza, and Cameron, your top 3 now. Almost halfway in the sprint race, and Ryan has led every lap thus far. Keza 9/10 of a second behind Ryan, struggling really to keep up with the pace, and he has got to keep up with him to keep that DRS. Keza saying that he's going for the win today, and apparently he's had some decent pace from what I've heard. So, running second right now in the sprint race, even if it were to end now, that's a great position to start out. You don't win a race on the first lap, and well, you don't win it from the pole unless you complete every lap. Cameron Searle goes by Keza, and Keza really didn't put up much of a fight there, thinking that he's just going to let Cameron go on by. Now the question is, though, will Cameron be able to catch Ryan? Cameron Searle, the quickest lap, a 1:36.7. Up the hill, had a look, couldn't do anything with it, has to fall back in line. And slowly but surely, Cameron, he's starting to turn into my favorite of the day. He has been able to make up quite a few positions. In fact, we'll take a look at that now. The position changes for him. Well, he has made up a whopping 9 positions. And remember, he is in a Williams. That is one of the slowest cars out here. And Cameron has been able to work his way up to the second position, challenging for the lead in this sprint race, and it's only lap 5. If he has this kind of pace in the sprint race, who knows what we're going to see from him when it comes to the feature. A lot of these drivers, they're going to have to start taking notes, and taking notes quick, figuring out what Cameron's doing as he goes around Ryan. Now the first driver to do so all day, Cameron takes the lead. And Cameron pulling away with relative ease as we've got Ryan and Keza now. Keza still struggling to get by Ryan, but now Ryan, he's going to have a little bit of DRS, and that's something that he has not had the advantage of all day, but he's going to have to get it quick because I think he just barely made the DRS that time. Yeah, there you see that rear wing open on that AlphaTauri, so that's going to allow him to close up on Cameron, but if he cannot keep within 1 second of that Williams, then Ryan is going to be another setting duck, except this time in second instead of first. Keza, though, he has been struggling and struggling to get by Ryan, just can't seem to figure out what he has to do. .8 seconds between Ryan and Cameron, so Cameron's pretty much checked out. Let's see what Keza's able to do on Ryan. One thing I don't understand, though, is why is Ryan struggling so much? Of course, oh, and some contact. Keza gets into the back of Ryan. No harm, no foul, though. Looks like no wing damage on the Alpine. But as I was saying, I find it surprising that Ryan is actually struggling as much as he is, but this could just be a wing setup. Someone actually bringing to my attention that Cameron, well, could very well be running 0-0 wings. Maybe that's a little bit drastic, but all the same, definitely a low downforce wing setup on that Williams of Cameron Searle, and maybe Ryan, he's going the opposite direction and going with a little bit more of a higher downforce setup, so he's got more grip in the corners, but really struggles on the straights. And you see how long these straightaways are here? That's really where you need that speed. So now Keza has been able to get by Ryan. We'll see if he's able to chip away at the gap that Cameron Searle's built up. That is 2.8 seconds at the moment. 2.9 now, and it's really not looking like Keza's going to be able to chip away at that gap. In fact, 3.1 now. Cameron just absolutely on a roll, an absolute rocket ship in this Williams. There's the remainder of the top 5. Keza, Ryan, Nitrogash, and MDJ. And there you see, just at the top of your screen, way off into the sunset, Cameron Searle, your leader. Lap 7 of 10. Now remember, this race sets the starting order for the feature race, and also the top 8 will get points. So what you're watching here is still a battle for something on the line, that being a couple of extra points. And well, every single driver in the field today is still trailing this man right here when we find him on our list, it being MDJ. Everyone trailing him, and he is well over a race ahead at this point. Ahead of him, Nitrogash trying to find a way to get by Ryan. That's a couple of extra points. Keza, he fought hard to get by Ryan. That's a couple of extra points, and that can really pay dividends at the end of the season. Lap 8 of 10, just 3 laps to go rather in this sprint race. Then we'll have a 28-lap feature race. And at the moment, it's looking like it's going to be Cameron Searle and Keza, your top 2, and that final podium spot on the starting grid still up for grabs between Ryan, Nitrogash, and MDJ. So on board with MDJ, and really I'm seeing a couple of different things between him and Cameron Searle. It seems like Cameron Searle quite obviously does have more pace, and I find that intriguing considering that they're both in the Williams. But both of these drivers have had their fair share of overtakes in this sprint race. There you see an overtake of Nitro Gash going around Ryan, makes it look easy, and wow, MDJ really cutting that corner close, almost gets the job done on Ryan, but has to back out of it. Three cars running nose to tail, trying to chase down Keza up there in P2, who's 1.7 seconds ahead. But looking at the position changes, you've got Cameron Searle, who has gained 10 positions, and then MDJ, who has gained 4 positions. Both of those drivers are in the Williams, and that is astonishing to me. Because yes, in the Realistic Performance League, we do allocate the faster drivers to the slower cars in order to give an even playing field, but it's still a Williams, and we have seen the best drivers time and time again struggle to make up positions, and yet not one but 2 Williams cars today in the sprint race alone have been able to make up ground, especially Cameron Searle. These 2 drivers I'm going to be keeping a close watch on in the feature. So Ryan has pretty much been left in the dust by Nitro Gash, barely close enough for that DRS. And Ryan definitely has a short run car if I have ever seen one. It's great, quick, and fast on short runs, but what have we got, 9 laps on these tires almost now, and he just really seems to be struggling. Of course, there's a number of factors that could be playing into that. It could be the setup. Of course, it is an AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri is not the strongest car out there, so already Ryan is going to be struggling a little bit. All the same, very surprising to see him lose so much ground as quickly as he did, especially when early on in this race, no one could actually pass him. They could get close to him, but they could not pass him. No longer the case. Now lap 10 of 10, the final lap of the sprint race. Cameron Searle 3.5 seconds ahead, so looking like he will be your pole sitter, and of course picking up a nice haul of points at the end of this race. But we still have to get to the checkered flag. Cameron Searle just has to play it safe, and he will win the sprint race. On board with him as he goes through the S's, and wow, little bit loose off that corner, but honestly I think that looked like a bit of a controlled loose. Watching Cameron's steering inputs, and he really does look at ease, incredibly smooth around these corners, and that really goes to show you why he's as fast as he is. Earlier on in the season, we were thinking that maybe Cameron Searle, he would be a huge threat for the title. Well, we're approximately halfway into this season now, and he is pretty far back, P4. MDJ, of course, 167 points. Cameron Searle, he has got 112, so while you could still argue that mathematically Cameron is not out of contention for this title, it's going to take a lot to get him up there in contention with MDJ. And speaking of MDJ, he is our battle on track, trying to get by Ryan. Could he pick up a couple more points in this sprint race, or is he going to play it safe and just stay behind him? Running out of opportunities to find a way around that AlphaTauri as Cameron Searle rounds the final couple of corners, and he will cross the line. The winner of the sprint race, Keza in P2, a prime starting position. Nitro Gash in P3. Ryan barely makes it over the line ahead of MDJ for P4. MDJ in 5th, and then Bruce Lee Harding, Ruda, Russman, Martin, and Joe Hamster looking like the remainder of the field before those time penalties that you see kick in. Or at least the remainder of the top 10. So that's our 10-lap sprint here in just a couple of minutes. We will start with our 28-lap feature. And remember, MDJ, he is your points leader going into this race, both in the constructors and the driver's standings. Of course, his teammate in the constructors being Keza, starting in P2, so looking like KDJ Racing is in for a decent day if they're able to keep with the results that they got in the sprint race. Of course, Cameron Searle, he drives for Andrea Moda, his team in P3, 209 points to 277 of KDJ. And then Rudo and Bruce Lee Harding in P2, those are quick finishers. Now, Bruce Lee Harding, you see him there in 6th, and Rudo, well, appropriately, in P7. So those two teammates starting pretty much right next to each other. Now, if this is the first time that you're watching the Invictus Racing League and you're wondering why are they teammates in different cars, well, it's because the Realistic Performance League is a little bit different. We've already explained that every driver that finishes get points, but on top of that, it is exactly how it sounds when you hear the words realistic performance. So these cars mimic the real live performance of their counterparts. So, the Williams is slow, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, those are the fast cars. And now your starting lineup and also sprint race results. Cameron Searle in first, Keza in second, Nitrogash in third, fourth is Ryan, then fifth is MDJ, Bruce Lee Harding in sixth, Rudo in seventh, Russman in eighth, ninth is Martin, 10th is Joe Hamster, Mikey in 11th, 12th is JPH, Ginger Tiger in 13th, 14th is Sir Spud, JP in 15th, 16th is ARL Ka in the 17th position. 17 driver is going to be taking the green flag. Cameron Searle, well, he looks like he's the dominant force of them all, but if that was a 10-lap sprint race, he's going to have to go more than twice that to win the feature. And imagine what a win for Cameron would actually be able to do here today, though, because, we were just saying that he looked very strong early in the season, and now he's quite a few points behind MDJ, and with each passing race, he's losing time and opportunity to really catch that driver. So Cameron Searle picking up a win today, that would be an incredible haul of points. If something were to happen to MDJ to where he were not to score any points, then that would be great for a lot of drivers, because MDJ is approximately 32, 33 points ahead, if I remember correctly, in the standings. So that is more or less over a race, over a full race, when you don't factor in the potential point earnings in the sprint. So just waiting for the drivers to ready up, and then we will be ready to start our feature race. And this is normally the time when Malk and I, we would get our predictions in and talk about who we think is going to be the top three. Malk, unfortunately, is not here with me right now. So I guess I'm just flying solo. And the easy choice, quite obviously, is going to be Cameron. But I'm also saying MDJ. I think both of those Williams looking very strong today. Not sure what it is about Williams in this track, but it seems like they agree. And then Keza. That is my top three in any order. Cameron, MDJ, and Keza. And hoping we'll be able to start our race here soon. Not sure exactly what's going on. Between the sprint and the feature, there's very minimal adjustments that these drivers are allowed to make. Really just front and wing angle, and I believe differential brake bias, things like that. So very, very minimal differences. So not sure what it is that we're waiting on, but here in just a couple of minutes, we'll be able to load up on the grid. And again, just like in the sprint race, there will be no formation lap. The drivers have reported some issues when we run the formation lap, so we do not have a formation lap. We will just jump straight into this race. And 5 seconds before we load onto the grid, and it's going to be 28 laps coming your way at Circuit of the Americas. The drivers all lined up and ready, and you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights in the air. No red lights, and we are green for the Invictus Racing League's Realistic Performance League United States Grand Prix. Cameron, Searle, Keza side by side as they start out. Keza on the inside, Cameron on the outside, 3 wide for third behind him. The AlphaTauri of Ryan, he's able to get by through third, and meanwhile, MDJ really putting it on the outside, but look at Cameron and Keza, a side-by-side battle. They go through the S's somehow. They're able to hang on to it. Cameron gets the spot. Keza falls back to P2. We got a Ferrari off the track, a lot of carnage, a lot of chaos, a lot of cars just going every which way. Cameron, Keza, and Ryan, your top 3 with MDJ and Nitro Gash, your top 5 at the moment. There are your tire choices, looking like a medium to hard strategy for about half the field, and then the other ones, well, they're going to go hard to mediums. And, of course, there is the strategy. You can do the 1-stop, you can do the 2-stop. Well, right now, no one's wanting to stop. They're just wanting to go, 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 and MDJ wanting to go, go, go around Ryan in that AlphaTauri, but he does not have the assistance of DRS. Just going to have to use raw pace and slipstream to find his way around. Keza right on the back of Cameron Searle, and notice how quick Cameron Searle was in that sprint race, and now see how he's a little bit lagging in this feature to start off. Notice he's on the hard compound tire versus Keza on the medium compound. The medium compound a little bit quicker to start off, but after a few laps you're going to see Cameron start to pick up the pace a little bit and maybe even put some distance between him and these drivers behind him. No surprise, of course, that Cameron does have the quickest lap in 1:39.8 to start us off. Let's see who's going to get the quickest lap on lap 2. As you saw MDJ having a look behind Ryan, but could not do anything with it. You're watching the battle for first and subsequently for third, just behind them as well. Through the S's, and you know, one thing I noticed is I think that Cameron just takes the S's a little bit smoother. His car has set up something about it. He is able to just put that car exactly where he wants it, where he needs it to be. And Keza, don't get me wrong, he's quick, but it just did not look like he had the grip that Cameron has through those S's. And really, that could be the factor here. The deciding factor of who wins this race is just how good you are at certain parts of the track, as we've got a battle between MDJ and Ryan. Ryan trying to go back by MDJ, cannot get the job done. So MDJ moves up into P3 and continuing his charge to the front. He gained about 4 positions in the sprint race, while Cameron gained a whopping 10. Now those Williams drivers 1 and 3, but remember, they are not teammates. They are simply in the same car. Car allocated teammates, but not actual teammates. In fact, MDJ's teammate is Keza there in that Alpine, so teammate of MDJ keeping the leader of Cameron honest while his teammate catches up to him. The question is, though, what are we going to see between the two drivers once MDJ catches him? Because you see there a 138.4, MDJ fastest car on track that time around. Now the DRS is active, and that's what these drivers have been waiting on. They need this advantage to get around and maybe start some overtakes. But what you're going to see is a bit of a DRS train as well. Now Cameron, he's going to be a bit of a setting duck, but I think that he's got enough pace to where he can defend against these drivers charging with ERS. But you got Keza, MDJ, Ryan, and Nitro Gash all running more or less nose to tail. That is the makings of a DRS train where you go very far, very quickly, but you don't actually make up any ground, if that makes sense. Let's see how the DRS treats these drivers down this straightaway. Of course, don't expect to see a lot of overtakes this time around, very spread out that time around, but the DRS should eventually bring them closer together so long as MDJ is able to keep within that 1 second gap of Keza. You saw he is actually in jeopardy of losing that, but Keza really kicking into high gear here, not wanting Cameron Searle to get out of his sights. But one thing that concerns me, though, is this is all well and good at the moment. Cameron Searle and Keza running the top two, and pretty much Keza locking his car to the gearbox of Cameron. But how many laps until those medium tires start to give up the ghost? Cameron Searle really looking like he has got the advantage here. He is a very fast driver. He's got a fast car today, and he is on the hard compound tire, so he is able to go with that reverse strategy, and he still has the pace to maintain the lead. That is a very deadly combination. And also, how much is Keza really asking out of those tires in the early going to keep up with Cameron? Theoretically, it shouldn't be too hard to keep up with Cameron, at least at first, because of the medium tires and how much of a difference there is. But at some point, it's going to come back and catch up to Keza. And if he is really asking a lot out of his tires to keep up with Cameron, then we could see Keza fall off quickly. So we will join our mid-pack drivers. Martin actually losing a couple of positions to Joe Hamster and Rustman, respectively. Now, Joe Hamster, of course, he was up there earlier in the top three during the sprint race. But unfortunately, in the closing stages, he spun, had to play rebound for the final laps, and now he finds himself in P8 on those medium tires. But so far, making up a little bit of ground, just 0.6 of a second behind Bruce Lee Harding. Could see an overtake on him here in just a moment as they come out of the final corner. But look at Cameron Searle, 138.3, the fastest car on track. Now those hard tires are starting to kick in, at least for Cameron anyway. And Joe Hamster, well, he had the DRS, but really could not do anything with it on Bruce Lee Harding. That Mercedes very quick down the straightaway. A little bit closer for Joe this time. Let's see if he's able to get around Bruce Lee Harding. But Bruce Lee Harding, he gets fantastic exits off these corners, but he's out of ERS, and there goes Joe Hamster passing him like he's a sitting duck. And, you know, these long straightaways, they are a blessing and a curse, depending on which side of the DRS that you're on. Now we will rejoin our battle for the lead between Keza and Cameron Searle, although Keza has lost quite a bit of ground, a second now to Cameron Searle. You know, I would not expect the medium tires to really start to wear down that drastically this quick, but the times seem to be speaking for themselves. Whether Keza used up his tires or whether the medium tires just have that much fall off early on. You see Cameron now clocking off fastest lap after fastest lap, putting distance between him and Keza. I mean, we knew that those hard tires, they were going to come in, that they were going to have an advantage at some point, but only 5 laps on those tires, I find it very hard to believe that that advantage is showing itself now. It looks like we've got our first time penalty, unfortunately, with Sir Spud, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Now, looking down the leaderboard, we really don't have a lot of battles, but we got Nitro Gash here trying to chase Ryan down. We'll see if it's going to work for him. The thing is, Ryan, it looks like he might have just been able to get DRS. No, actually, he was not. And that actually does make a little bit more sense to me. I was a bit confused because I saw Ryan was not within a second of MDJ ahead of him, but it looked like the rear wing was open briefly. Of course, it just turned out that I was, well, looking at it wrong. Nitro Gash, however, he most definitely did have the DRS, and you saw how much it was able to help him get to the back of Ryan. The thing is, though, getting there and getting around him, that's two different things. But Nitro Gash, he is on those hard tires as well. So Cameron, he's quick. He's going to be quick regardless. You put him out there in a golf cart today, he is going to win this race probably. Or at least contend for it, let's be honest. So if we don't want to look at Cameron and his performance on the hard tires, let's go back a little further in the field. Let's look at Nitro Gash. Let's look at Bruce Lee Harding. Let's see when they start to make their position up. That's maybe a better indicator on when these hard tires are going to come in. Because we've seen from Cameron today that he is just lightning fast. But for about a lap now, I've been watching Nitro Gash, and it's maintained steady at about half a second, not really able to make up ground to Ryan, but not losing that much either. But then you see how much ground Ryan is able to gain on MDJ down the straightaway there. So that tells me that Ryan is using his battery to defend against Nitro Gash. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on here for the rest of this race, because Ryan, that's fine and well to do it now. But if you are not careful with how much you use that battery and win, then you're going to use it up and you're not going to have anything left for the race later on. And Nitro Gash, I think that he knows that. He sees that because he can see that red light blinking when it does blink on the back of that Alpha Tower. All the same, Nitro Gash is able to stay a consistent half a second or so behind Ryan. But this is another very important thing, though, is if Ryan is having to use up his ERS now just to stay ahead of Nitro Gash, then what's Keza and MDJ? What are their tires doing? Keza is now 1.8 seconds behind Cameron. Cameron is just consistently increasing that gap. And MDJ, he's really not making up a lot of ground as well. He started to make up ground early on in this race, and now he finds himself in P3 behind his teammate, but not really going forward from there. Let's see if he's got better luck this time. Ryan trying to protect the inside. No red light this time, so it looks like he's got a little bit left to defend, but Nitro Gash just barely gets the car underneath the AlphaTauri. Ryan tries a crossover move, doesn't work though. Ryan on the outside, Nitro Gash on the inside, side by side. And Ryan gets the position from Nitro Gash. And folks, well, since this race is starting to calm down a little bit, and you may have noticed my voice seemingly drifting in and out of audibility, I will go ahead and say that since we are in America and we are not allowed to advertise for tobacco companies, but we are allowed to advertise against tobacco companies, I'm going to say don't smoke, because that's what happens when you do. And Nitro Gash going around Ryan for P4 once again, and this time just maybe he'll get to keep it as he clears Ryan out of turn 1. But no, seriously, I'm actually over here just coughing a lot, and that was the issue there just a couple of minutes ago, so the obligatory don't smoke comment from me. Of course, don't listen to me. I'm not your father. You do what you want. So Nitro Gash trying to make his way up to P3, but that's a bit of a tall ladder to climb. 2.6 seconds between him and MDJ, but on those hard tires, they should be coming in, and they should be having an advantage here soon. We saw the medium tires can very easily last 10 laps in that sprint race. That's a given, so we are not expecting anyone to make a pit stop, as you see Ryan using the DRS to his advantage to get back by Nitro Gash that time, but we're not expecting anyone on those medium or hard tires, for that matter, to pit before lap 10. After lap 10, Well, let's see what they're doing, because I'm almost starting to think that maybe drivers like Keza, MDJ, they're going to have to start thinking about an undercut to get to Cameron. Wow, did you see that wiggle from Ryan? This is a fantastic battle between Nitro Gash and Ryan. Maybe a little bit of contact between the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari. Ryan just will not give it up, but Nitro Gash won't either. This time, Nitro Gash behind Ryan. He will have the DRS going into the uphill turn 1, but look at Rudo. He has been able to catch these 2 cars. So now we got a 3-car battle for the 4th position. Nitro Gash using that DRS, but not able to make up ground on Ryan. They're going to have to wait for the next DRS zone, that very long straight where you saw Ryan overtake Nitro Gash just a lap ago. Maybe we're going to see a little bit of a reverse on Ryan this time. Nitro Gash really driving it in hard, and you know that might be an advantage that he can actually lean on that Ryan can't right now because of the older tires, or the difference in compound rather. All of a sudden, Nitro Gash using that DRS, and you saw how much he was able to gain on Ryan, but he's not going to be able to make the move this time. He does have a look, has to back out of it. Something about Ryan, he can definitely defend. Today, he has really struggled to have pace. He struggled to move forward. He led a lot in the sprint race, and then he started to drop back, and now we're seeing the same thing from him here in the feature, is that he's starting to drop back. But I'm going to go ahead and compare Ryan, and coincidence, interestingly enough, but I'm going to go ahead and compare Ryan to a NASCAR driver by the name of Ryan Newman, who is notoriously hard to pass. And, well, Ryan pulls into the pits, and now Nitro Gash is able to get by him, and I'd say that's just about the only way that anyone was going to be able to get by Ryan. But yes, Ryan, very hard to pass here. Not Ryan Newman, the actual Ryan here in the Invictus Racing League. So, win, lose, or draw for this AlphaTauri, I've at least got to give him props for his defending skills, but he goes onto the hard tires. He is the first driver to blink after 10 laps on those mediums. Now, that could pay dividends for Ryan, but he's going to have to manage his tire wear, and he's going to have to hope that he doesn't get held up by the rest of the field. But now he is on newer tires than absolutely anybody, period. That's including Cameron, that's including Keza, that's including MDJ. So theoretically, he should be running faster laps. He should be gaining on these cars ahead. But if he catches someone and he has to fight with them for a while before getting by, then that really loses his time. Of course, it also begs the question, was that the right lap to pit? We have been hearing that Ryan's tire wear, for whatever reason, seems to degrade a little bit quicker than a few of the other drivers. And, you know, that's just something that we can chalk up to setup and driving style. There's really no definitive answer for that. But if his tires are degrading quicker, then he would have to pit quicker. And yes, pitting quicker, going on fresher tires quicker is going to give you quicker lap times at first, but it all does balance out. So that's why when you see drivers attempt the undercut, whether that be in the Invictus Racing League or in the real-life Formula 1, you're usually going to see them pit a lap or two earlier than what you would expect them to, or what they think their competitor is going to do. How about that? But it's looking like Ryan did not have that advantage, and then he just had to pit because his tires were wearing out. But if the medium tires do wear out after about 10 laps, and now you see Martin actually pulling into the pits, and he is on the hard tire, so 10 to 12 laps seems to be the window for these medium tires, and if they're wearing out that quick, then that tells me that this race can be done on a one-stop, medium to hards, which I think we all understood, but the question is not can it be done, but can it be done and the drivers still be competitive? And I'm starting to wonder if maybe we're going to see a couple of drivers gamble for a two-stop strategy and see if that can help them as well. But it's lap 12 of 28. We are approaching the halfway point, and we've only now started our first round of pit stops. Can we get a Ryan counter for this race? Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but I am looking at his time there, and as Cameron pulls into the pits, well, Ryan is gaining on Joe Hamster ahead of him, so now let's see where Ryan's going to come out of the pit, or where Cameron's going to come out of the pits in regards to Ryan. Now, Ryan was a decent ways back, so I don't expect Ryan to overtake Cameron, but maybe he'll be a second or two closer. But you know, another thing that I find very astonishing just now is Cameron pitted before Keza and MDJ. So now Cameron going on the medium tires. So Keza is in the lead, MDJ in second, Nitro Gash in third with Rudo in fourth. Now Cameron, he is P5. There is Cameron. He's already got by Bruce Lee Harding, and now he's got his sights set on Rudo. That is 7 seconds, though, that he's going to have to make up. But a fresh set of Dr. Feelgoods on that Williams. That should not be that difficult. Of course, I also expect to see Keza and MDJ pit sooner rather than later. The question is, though, what are they going to do with their pit strategy? Are we seeing them go onto a one-stop strategy or not? And I'm still wondering what Cameron's doing, because he pitted rather early on those hard tires. Now we see him on the mediums, and if the mediums are lasting 10 to 12 laps, well, he can't make it to the end. So that tells me that Cameron might be on a two-stop strategy. Oh, a counter for how many times I've said Ryan. Oh my goodness. It's actually funny that you bring that up, because sometimes I'll be calling a battle, or I'll just be talking about drivers, and it seems like they're the only driver that has something going on, or I have to say their name seemingly 100 times in a lap. So believe me, I understand the feeling of redundancy there. But as pit stops continue to commence, we're going to see Cameron slowly work his way back up to the lead. Very curious, though, to see how this is going to play out for Keza and Nitro Gash, because between them and Cameron, it's like we got three different strategies. Cameron pitting very early on the hards, and then you've got Keza, who on the medium tires has not yet pitted, and then Nitro Gash, who started on the hard tires and has had decent pace throughout the whole race. Not sure that he's been able to challenge Cameron's pace. All the same, Nitro Gash, solid top 3, top 5 car today. But with these differing strategies, it's really going to be interesting to see which driver is going to be able to prevail, especially when we're now at our halfway point, 14 of 28 laps. Cameron on 3-stop. Excuse me, what? Cameron on a 3-stop. My goodness, that would be absolutely insane. But here are your pit stops at the moment. So Cameron, MDJ, Ryan, Martin, Ginger Tiger, Joe Hamster, ARL Sir Spud, and looks like Keza now have all made their pit stops. And Cameron Searle, the quickest driver on track at the moment, a 136.212. Now the question is, where is Keza going to come out on track in regards to Cameron Searle? Keza in P4. Bruce Lee Harding just ahead of him. Now, we might see Bruce pit here soon, so maybe that could be Keza's saving grace. That, or he's going to have to catch him and take advantage of the DRS here soon, because the more he fights behind Bruce Lee Harding, the less time he's going to have to catch Cameron Searle. Imagine softs in the end versus old hards. Well, that would be a cluster, to put it mildly. However, that would definitely be one hell of a battle. So Keza did not get the DRS on Bruce Lee Harding that time around, so he is just going to have to sit and take the long, long ride down the straightaway. And that's actually something that I'm finding surprising today, yet again, is that Keza was not able to catch Bruce Lee Harding quicker than he did. Now, through the corner that time, you saw Keza gain about 0.3 of a second, so he should have the DRS when they get back to the front straightaway. But Bruce Lee Harding was able to keep Keza honest, and Keza just was not able to catch him when he got out of the pits. Now, that could just be explained by cold tires, and I'm thinking that that's what we're looking at here with these hard tires, but still very surprising to see that Bruce was able to fend off Keza from that DRS. Although now Keza does have the DRS down the front straightaway as Bruce was able to pit and give that assistance to Keza. 9.8, now 10 seconds separating Cameron and Keza, and my goodness, Cameron Searle going on those medium tires when he did completely took Keza out of contention. 10 seconds separating Keza and Cameron. Going back to P6, and here is Ryan just behind the Alfa Romeo of JPH. JPH running in P5, 15 laps on those hard tires to Ryan's 5 laps on the tires. So we should see an overtake here rather soon. Of course, JPH just picked up a time penalty as well. Almost some contact, too, as the Alpha Tauri gets close to the back of JPH. Down the straightaway, Ryan will have DRS. Does he get the job done? JPH defending the inside, around the outside. Ryan makes it an effort. Does he get it? Does he clear him? He does not clear him into the corner, but he clears him on exit. So now JPH falls back behind Ryan, and Nitro Gash putting a lot of pressure on him. Nitro Gash just fresh out of the pits on those medium tires, trying to give chase to Ryan, and MDJ find his way back into the top 3 positions. And just taking advantage of this wonderful helicopter shot. Malk and I, we both love this helicopter shot, but wow, look at how close Nitro Gash was able to get to that Alfa Romeo. I think we're going to see an overtake up the hill. And looks like JPH defending the inside. That's going to give Nitro Gash the outside, but actually that's going to help Nitro Gash. Oh, and JPH almost spins, hangs on to it. But yeah, considering the difference in tires there, that actually helped Nitro Gash tremendously, because he's just going to have the wider line around the corner, and at least as far as I'm concerned, if it was me driving, I would rather take the wider line when passing a slower car. Rudo, 3-second time penalty. He is running in 7th. That's just behind Nitro Gash. You're looking at him there. No DRS for Rudo this time, and also looks like Cub there in P3 has got a time penalty as well. So here is your update on the time penalties. 3 seconds for Cub, 3 seconds for Rudo and JPH as well. In fact, everyone. 3 seconds except for Spud, who has got 6. And Nitro Gash getting by Ryan that time. Ryan already losing a lot of ground to Nitro Gash. Half a second, 0.6 of a second. How long is he going to be able to keep up with him? Nitro Gash, of course, on these medium tires. And just look at the difference between the medium versus the hard compound tires. When they're on an even playing field, it's really not that bad. You saw Cameron, he wasn't really able to pull away, but he was still able to keep Keza behind him. When Cameron pitted for those fresh mediums, though, he just went on a tear of an outlap, and now he finds himself 12 seconds ahead of Keza, and he just keeps increasing the gap. Meanwhile, Nitro Gash on fresh mediums just blew by Ryan like he's sitting still, giving chase to MDJ, and let's look at how much he eats away at that gap. 3.8 seconds at the moment. Will we see a 3.7? Will we see a 3.6 now? Those medium tires versus those hards, they are really, really quick. Smoke says, are you sure Cameron isn't in a Red Bull? I am not sure that Cameron is not in a Red Bull, to be honest with you. In fact, I think that he is in a Red Bull, and they just disguised it as a Williams. And in fact, there are too many blue cars on the grid. Thank you very much. So that is technically plausible. We need a battle. We need a battle, but guess what? We got one. Rudo and Ryan. Of course, looks like also Rustman and JPH is behind them. So we'll go take a look at them. Rustman a little bit closer than Rudo is. Oh, and a big wiggle from JPH. That gives the position to Rustman as he goes around. JPH hangs on to it, though. Now he's got to go back on the offensive. Heads-up driving from both drivers. Rustman for the reflexes and JP for the car control. My apologies, not JPH. JPH is in P13 in the Alfa Romeo. It's JP in the Mercedes that just had, well, how you say, a bit of a moment, a bit of fright, shall we say, in front of Rustman. I'll be completely honest, I wanted to make a different comment, but I have to keep it PG. And now Ryan, a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so another update on your penalties there. 3 seconds for him, 3 seconds for Rudo, and still everybody that's got a penalty 3 seconds except for Spud with 6. Lap 19 of 28, getting to the final stages of this race. You're watching Rustman try to give chase to Bruce Lee Harding, 1.8 seconds ahead. There you see the Mercedes. Go back and take a look at Rudo, getting close to Ryan. Remember, only car allocated teammates, not teammates in actuality. So don't expect team orders, don't expect a break, don't expect a hope or a prayer. These two drivers, they're just going to battle it out for whatever they can get. Ryan, he looked good in the sprint race, led quite a few laps, lost some ground. And he's just been playing catch-up ever since. He has struggled consistently in this race, but somehow has been able to maintain top 5 pace. And now, of course, you've got Rudo in the same car as Ryan, AlphaTauri, so very similar equipment here. But Rudo, he has not really been to the front like Ryan was in the sprint race. He's just been hanging out in the mid-pack all day. He's just trying to scrape up as many points as he can. So we've got 9 laps to go. We will rejoin our leader of Cameron Searle, who is 14.5 seconds ahead of Keza, and I'm wondering when or if he will be pitting again. We have seen the medium tires only last about 10 to 12 laps or so, although that is competitively. That's not necessarily that the drivers took it to the absolute limit. And with Cameron having such a gap ahead, it is theoretically possible that if those tires can last to the end, that he can win this race and not have to worry about pitting. But he's so fast right now, he's actually flirting with a free pit stop. I don't think he's going to get there, but he could get very close. Depending on the track and depending on the pit road, you're going to see anywhere from about 25, 30-second time loss in the pits. So Cameron Searle, 15 seconds ahead of Keza right now, so approximately halfway to a free pit stop, but we just don't have enough time for him to get that. So, looking down the leaderboard, and really this is one of the few battles that we do have on track at the moment, but let's go ahead and join Joe Hamster because he's a driver that we know does have some pace here today. He, held his own quite nicely in the sprint race. He just had one little mistake there at the end that cost him quite a lot of positions. But now he is fighting with Martin, trying to get around him, and we'll see how this DRS is going to treat him. Joe Hamster, slightly newer tires by about 2 laps or so versus Martin, but Joe Hamster also has a time penalty that's going to come back to bite him at the end. Martin maybe a little bit of a wiggle there through the S's. Joe Hamster keeping a little bit steadier, but I think Joe Hamster actually had to check up a little bit. thinking that Martin was going to slow down. Just saw a tiny little wiggle from the Haas car. Of course, those S's are very difficult to take anyway. So Joe Hamster, this is going to be his best opportunity to get around Martin. Meanwhile, it looks like Russman and JPH, they've got a bit of a battle going on, and that has sorted itself out. Now Joe Hamster diving underneath of Martin, trying to get the job done, and he does. Moves into P11. A couple more points for Joe Hamster on the board. So 7 seconds behind Ka. I don't think we're going to see Joe Hamster really be able to overcome that gap. Sad for his sake. All the same, like we mentioned earlier on, every driver who finishes a race in the Realistic Performance League will score points. So Joe Hamster is not out of the points. He's just out of the top 10. All the same, he's going to be chomping at the bit for everything that he can get, even if that is just defending against Martin. Lap 22 of 28 now, and we will go back to our battle for, oh, well, it looks like P3, because there is no battle for the lead. Nitro Gash 9/10 of a second behind MDJ. MDJ, of course, your points leader going into the race. Nitro Gash, well, he wants himself a top 3, and he has slowly but surely been eating away at the gap and working his way up through the field on those medium tires. But now I think is when we're going to start to see those medium tires start to fall off. So maybe he's not going to have the advantage against MDJ like he would want to, and we might even be seeing that come in full force as he was 0.8 of a second on exit of that corner, and the DRS definitely brought him up close to MDJ, but not close enough to make a move. So it's seeming like Nitro Gash has got a better car through the second and third sector, but that first sector, MDJ really pulled it. Let's see if it's going to be the same story this time, although Nitro Gash will have the advantage of DRS. There you go, he passes the line, the rear wing should be open, he should be gaining on MDJ, albeit very minimally. Through turn 1, Nitro Gash drives it in deep, but MDJ with a better exit. And, you know, it really seems like the exit of turn 1 sets you up for the next 3 or 4 corners. And if you don't get a good exit, then you're just not going to get a good set of corners. And speaking of not getting a good set of corners, I think that Nitro Gash got a better set than MDJ that time around. 0.3 of a second between these two drivers. And let's see if Nitro Gash can find a way around the Williams. When they get back to the line, it'll be 5 laps to go. 5 laps for Nitro Gash to get onto the podium. They'll have the DRS. Is he going to be able to get by him, though? MDJ, he's been super quick, and he knows what to expect, but Nitro Gash passes MDJ. MDJ almost kept the position, and he's not done fighting for it, but Nitro Gash does clear him. Meanwhile, it looked like Rudo and Ryan, they've been having a battle, and Ryan looking back underneath of Rudo side by side, the two Alpha Tauris. Rudo hangs on to the 5th spot, Ryan back there in P6, but Ryan, he's not giving up yet. Both of these drivers have time penalties. They are racing for position just on their own. Time penalties will give them what it will, but through the final corner, it's Ryan with the DRS, but will it be Ryan with the overtake as he's got that slipstream to his advantage? Looking underneath it side by side into turn number 1. Who's going to get the job done? Ryan, quite easily. Of course, I'm almost thinking that Rudo anticipated Ryan to make that move, and he let him by. I'm thinking Rudo has got something up his sleeve and he's waiting for this next DRS zone, because we've seen time and time again of the DRS zones that we've got for these drivers to overtake at. The one that they're approaching right now, the one that Nitro Gash is actually in right now, and we will switch to him here before too long, as he's already gotten by MDJ, so he is in P3 now, but This DRS zone here is the one where these drivers have made the most overtakes all day long. This is where you're seeing the overtakes, and it makes sense. It's the longest straightaway on the racetrack. You've got so much time to use the DRS and the slipstream, and look at Rudo using it to his advantage to get back by Ryan, and that's exactly what I was thinking that he was trying to do. It just looked like Ryan made the move on Rudo into one a little bit too easy, so Rudo just looking at it and saying, well, I'll give it to you now. So Rudo hanging on to P5, and now MDJ 0.5 of a second behind Nitrogas. Lap 25 of 28 is Cameron, Cyril, Keza, and Nitrogas, your top three. And that might just be how it ends up. Of course, MDJ still wanting to get into that third position. And now Ryan, something's happened to Ryan. Did he retire in the pits or on track? And now a safety car? Oh my goodness. Now this changes everything. Is it a safety car or a VSC, though? It is a safety car, a late race safety car. Now, unlike real-life Formula 1, here on F1 2022, we cannot finish the race under a safety car. It just doesn't happen. So we're going to have 1, maybe 2 laps under safety car conditions before we go back green. This is going to be an interesting battle, and Cameron Searle pitting as well, you would expect him to do, pitting for what will likely be the soft compound tires to finish out this race. So your top three now, Cameron, Searle, Keza, and MDJ, as Nitrogas pitted for soft tires. Or no, MDJ pitted for soft tires as well, but just a little bit of jostling around in the pits. Bruce Lee Harding, though, he's gambling, and he is staying out on those meetings. And, you know, I really do like that call by Bruce Lee Harding for no other reason than it's his best chance. He was not in contention for the win. He was not in contention for a top three. He was just trying to run his own race and get as much points as he can. Now, he has an opportunity to maybe, just maybe, get on the podium or a top 5. Now, that is going to be a very difficult task to accomplish, but with 1 to 2 racing laps left when we go back green, just maybe he can pull it off. And we are back green. My apologies, had something to attend to, but Nevertheless, we are not going to miss this. Lap 27 of 28. And Keza, well, he very well could be off the podium here because of that time penalty. There's your time penalties, 3 seconds for Keza. And oh, JP really dropping back there. Nitro Gash and MDJ, 4th and 5th respectively. Bruce Lee Harding still hanging on to that 3rd spot. So there's Bruce Lee Harding and potentially in for a podium today. So Bruce Lee Harding, you know, you're really seeing though just how much of a struggle it is for him to keep up. And he's going to have to do this for one more lap. His saving grace, though, is there is no DRS, and there will be no DRS. However, you got to feel for Keza because he was going for the win today. He felt very confident, and it's looking like he could potentially get on the podium, but definitely not going to be a win as Cameron is pulling away, and that time penalty hanging over his head is just not going to do him any favors. And oh, 3 wide for the 3rd position. Bruce Lee Harding trying to defend. MDJ going around the outside. He gets 2 for 1. And there goes Bruce Lee Harding's podium, unless somehow, some way he's able to keep up with MDJ, but he can't as Nitro Gas goes underneath him. Oh, and almost a spin there from the other Mercedes of JP, so Bruce Lee Harding from 3rd to 5th just like that, but maybe he can hang on and at least get a top 5 out of this thing. Nitro Gas trying desperately to find his way around MDJ for that final podium spot, but is he going to be able to do it? MDJ, your points leader, another top 3 would just further increase his points lead over most of these drivers. Cameron Searle, of course, he's been the dominant force all day long. He has not put a foot or a wheel or anything wrong whatsoever. And now he is 2.1 seconds ahead of Keza, and as long as he does not have any catastrophic failures, he will win the United States Grand Prix. Keza trying to hang on to the top 3, and it's looking like he will be able to do so. 2.2 seconds behind Cameron, but 3.9 ahead of MDJ, so it's looking like Keza will in fact be able to hold on to the podium. So a fantastic run for this Alpine driver, assuming they get back to the line. And Nitro Gash and MDJ still fighting it out. MDJ goes around the outside. Nitro Gash, though, trying to go back around the outside into another corner. Cannot do it. MDJ in P3, and you know what? That might be all she wrote right there. Nitro Gash, he's going to do everything he can to catch MDJ, and you see MDJ using up that battery. Nitro Gash gaining on him. He might have one more opportunity, but it is dwindling and dwindling quick. Through the final corner, Nitro Gash drives it in hard, cannot do anything with it. It's going to be MDJ in P3. Cameron Searle has won this race. Keza in P2. MDJ 3rd. 4th is Nitro Gash. Bruce Lee Harding in 5th. Now remember, there are no interviews after this. We will conclude the broadcast after I give you the official, or officially unofficial, results, I should say. But running a little bit short on time today, but all the same, congratulations to Cameron Searle on the win, Keza and MDJ on their top 3. And I think we're going to have to actually wait out that clock, unfortunately. And Bruce Lee Harding credited with the 5th position. So the gamble did seem to pay off a little bit for Bruce Lee Harding. Gained about a position or 2 than what he would have normally had. So, you know, sometimes you just got to try it, right? And your officially unofficial results for the Invictus Racing League's Realistic Performance League United States Grand Prix is Cameron in 1st, Keza in 2nd, MDJ in 3rd, 4th is Nitro Gash, Bruce Lee Harding in 5th, Rudo in 6th, Russman in 7th, 8th is JP,
SFR Martin in 9th, Joe Hamster in 10th, Ka in 11th, 12th is JPH, Junior Tiger in 13th, ARL in 14th, 15th is Sir Spud, Ryan in 16th, and 17th is Mikey. And of course, just a quick recap of your sprint results for the admins, as well as the weekend results for the admins. Don't say I don't try to help you out when I actually think about it. It's just, you know, sometimes the brain cells don't always fire on all cylinders. All the same, that's all the time that we have, but thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to all the drivers that raced with us, and congratulations to our top 3 finishers. And until next time, have fun and goodbye.